Hello, my friends. Good to be here with you. So, I'm here in my home in Bali, and so you may hear some roosters and the farmers working out in the rice fields next door. Let's talk about meditation. And I wanted to talk specifically today about the myth in meditation where the goal is to quiet the mind. The goal here in meditation is not to quiet the mind so that we can feel peace. The goal is to be at peace with the activity of our mind. I've made a practice of, at the end of the day, sometime usually after 5, before I make dinner, around 7 o'clock or so, I'll find the time to just sit and be, and to be still. And I've got a very active life. I've got a lot of things happening, projects, relationships, dynamics to my life. I'm actually moving from Bali. I'll be moving back to the United States. A lot of moving parts with visas and shipping and moving and a lot of things happening. And when I sit, the mind does what the mind does. The mind does what it does. It thinks. There's a lot to think about. And there's value in thinking about these things. There's a lot that needs to be figured out and planned and adjusted and attended to. So I sit in my meditation. I'm trained in bringing my attention to my breath and to a stillness, to an inner stillness of being that is always present, because it's the essence of my being. But as I drop into and am abiding and embodying the stillness of being, the mind does what it does. And it says, oh, I got a lot to think about. And it'll think. And the beauty is that there's not a sense of failure because, my mind is thinking. I'm trying to sit here without a thinking mind. No. The opportunity is to be at peace with a thinking mind. And simply to notice it, to notice that a thought has caught my attention. And the meditation is bringing myself back to the centered sense, the centered knowing of my stillness. 10 seconds later, another thought has bubbled up. And it's now thinking about, did I call that person I'm supposed to call to arrange the moving, and I got to pay that person, and how should I move the funds? Oh, wait, now I'm thinking. And just to bring the attention back to the center and let that thought then move on. And what I'm pointing to here is that the practice is in recognizing again and again and again the stillness of being, the awareness, the observer, the witness, the consciousness of all thoughts that come and go. And to be at peace with the activity of mind. Not to try to stop all activity of mind so I can be at peace, but to be at peace with the activity of mind. And here's why that is valuable. Because life is often not behaving in the ways that I can control or necessarily want. People are not necessarily behaving in ways that I can necessarily control or necessarily want. People and life and situations are what they are. My peace, my opportunity, my freedom is the opportunity to learn how to be at peace with those activities of life, with the dynamics of a world that is not always behaving the way I want it to behave. So it'd be kind of not as useful to sit with a perfectly quiet mind, because that isn't representative of how life typically works. What a beautiful thing to learn how to sit with an active mind, with a mind that isn't behaving, with a mind that keeps thinking things, even though I'm saying, no, no, be quiet, I'm trying to meditate, stop thinking about all these things. And the mind goes, yeah, but that's what I do. It'd be like going out into life and saying, life, just stop, everything just stop misbehaving, stop being difficult, stop being a challenge, stop being noisy, stop being other than the way I want you to be. That would be suffering. So in your meditation, what if you can sit and be present to and at peace with all the ways your mind is going to think, and with all the emotions that that thinking mind is going to generate, all those thoughts are going to generate. The idea is not to completely quiet the mind so you can be at peace. The idea is to learn how to recognize your peace of being that can stay unshakable and unwavering in the presence of the activities of mind. Because then we can learn to live in our lives and stay in the unshakable peace of being in the presence of an active life that is not always behaving the way we want, and those people who are not always behaving in the way that we want, and my mind that isn't always behaving the way that I want, and in the emotions that arise in life that are sometimes challenging and painful and difficult. The opportunity in meditation is to practice being with a mind that isn't necessarily behaving, so that we can then take that practice into life and practice being at peace with a life that is not necessarily behaving the way that I would like. And what will happen is the mind will start to quiet on its own. That's just a natural outcome of meditation. It's not the goal of meditation. It's a natural outcome. That the mind will stop insisting so forcefully upon needing all of its thoughts to be attended to. Because you're practicing noticing them and saying, no, no, not now. You're not exercising the thoughts. You're not giving them the power of being able to hook you and pull you and compel you. They do for a little while, but then you notice it and you go, oh, wait, no, no, not now. Not now. And you bring your attention back to the presence of your being. You notice the movement of your breath, and you notice the peace within. And then the mind does it again. And it gets you. And you go, oh, and that's an interesting thought. Maybe I should think about that. Maybe that I should do that now. And oh, that is an important thought. No, that's I should think about that thing. And you go, oh, wait, no, not now. Right now I am practicing stillness. I'm not practicing quiet mind. I am practicing stillness, no matter what my mind does. Yeah, it's the practicing of the stillness of being, the recognition of the peaceful nature of being. And what happens when we bring our attention to our breath, to the movement of the breath, the slight rising and falling of the chest and belly as I breathe, when I'm paying attention to the pace of my breath, to the depth of my breath, to the presence of my breath, I'm pointing my awareness somewhere other than being captivated by all the thoughts that are happening. I'm pointing my awareness away from the distracting thoughts to my peace of being. And the reason that I find peace is because that is the nature of being that is always there, always present. And as soon as I point my awareness to the breath, basically away from the overthinking mind, I'm not trying to stop the mind from thinking, I'm simply pointing the awareness away from that to the presence of the breath, which allows me to recognize the presence of my peace. And we start to recognize that that peace is always there. And if I, in my meditation, can recognize the peace of being and the peaceful awareness of my thinking mind, without getting so hooked by every thought, or so compelled by every thought, or so lost in every thought, I'm not practicing quieting the mind. I'm practicing the knowing of my peaceful stillness of being that will notice my thoughts and the adjacent or the attached emotions. And I'm practicing remaining at peace in the presence of an activity of thinking. And then that's a very useful tool that I can then take out into my life, out of meditation, and recognize, oh, my mind is like life. It just does what it does. Life just does what it does. Those people just do what they do. And because of meditation, you can practice being at peace with life doing what it does, and be at peace with people doing what they do. Because you practice in your meditation being at peace with your mind just doing what it does. So your goal is not a quiet mind, if you will. The goal is to recognize and remember and abide your peace of being. It doesn't fight the activity of mind. It doesn't make the activity of mind wrong. It doesn't even try to change all the thinking. It doesn't say to the mind, shut up. It just notices. Oh, there's the thinking mind. Okay, where would I rather my attention be? Oh, back to the breath, which guides me to the recognition of the essential piece of being that is the nature of my being, that's always there. I'm not telling the mind to shut up. I'm simply reorienting my awareness to the peace of being. And the thought drifts. And I can say not now. I can say no, no, not now. Back to the presence of my being. And then guaranteed within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 5 seconds, another thought comes up. And as soon as I notice that I'm getting lost in that thought, I don't tell the mind to shut up. I simply bring my awareness back to the rested, unwavering, unshakable peace of being. It's natural for the mind to think. There's a lot to think about. And I'll add one more little nuance to this before I wrap it up. Sometimes I'll allow the thought. For instance, maybe in my meditation, I'm sitting with the recognition of, wow, this is how the mind works. Oh, this is how stillness works. So what am I really doing here in meditation? Oh, I'm not fighting mind. I'm not making mind wrong. I'm simply remembering my truth. Now, those are all thoughts. They're thoughts about what is happening, how is this working, what is the nature of consciousness, what is the nature of being, what is the nature of mind. And then even having that recognition of, oh, this is like life. Oh, I don't want to practice trying to quiet the mind because that's not as useful. I want to practice being at peace with the mind because that's a skill I can actually take into life. I can't quiet life, but I can practice being at peace with all the activity of life. So those are thoughts that are happening within my meditation. So the nuance is I can allow the thoughts sometimes, knowing it's a combination of there's a thought and I'm being with it, and I'm recognizing the peace within which that thought is being allowed. I'm allowing the thought, I'm working with it, I'm being with it, but I'm not forgetting the essential feeling and essence of deep peace within which that thought is being held. It's a practice, it's an art. But I would invite you as you drop into your meditation to not set the goal of quieting the mind. Simply point your intention on being attentive to the peaceful stillness of your own being that will notice a very active mind. And especially at the beginning of your meditation. You know, if you're driving a race car at 200 miles an hour, it doesn't just come to a stop like that. You start to apply the brakes. It's going to take a little while for the car to slow down. So when you first sit in your meditation, your thoughts may be going at 200 miles an hour. But then you bring your awareness back to your presence of being, and that's the brakes got put on a little bit. And they slow down to 180, to 160, to 140. They slow down. But ultimately, you might find throughout your entire meditation that your mind kept doing what it does, trying to think about things. And you realize that's not a failure. That's just the mind doing what it does. Just like life does what it does, just like people in your life do what they do. The practice is not in trying to control all that. The practice is in recognizing you can be at peace with all of it. All right. I hope that's helpful. Just wanted to share that because that's been a beautiful experience in sitting every evening in stillness, is recognizing the mind doesn't necessarily shut up, but I can remain at peace the whole time with an active mind. And I just keep bringing the awareness back to the peace, back to the peace, back to the peace. And that's the practice. That's what meditation is. It's the habitual interruption of the active mind with the reminder of the peace of your being. That's what meditation is, remembering the peace of your being. It is always present, even with an active mind. I'll leave you with this little mantra. I am the stillness in the background of all experience. I am the stillness in the background of all experience. I am the stillness in the background of all thinking. I am the stillness in the background of all emotion. No matter what is happening in my body, in my mind, in life, with other people, no matter what is happening. I am the still and unshakable peace of awareness of all of it. Can you hear the birds? This time of year, these birds, long legs, they kind of walk on the water, and they're breeding right now, and so they get very excited about the whole thing. All right, my friends, be well. Blessings. Much love.